Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and in this video, I'm going to help you improve your listening so you can understand native speakers much more easily with one simple trick. Now, typically, I'll receive a comment or a question from a learner, and they'll give me some phrase, like a whole sentence that they heard, and they're asking me what it means. So in this video, hopefully, I'll give you a way of correcting that yourself so that you don't have to mail a teacher and say, hey, what does this mean? One I received recently was a friend of mine had food on the brain. So someone sent me this sentence. They're talking about like a friend of mine had food on the brain. So they heard this phrase, they heard this sentence, a friend of mine had food on the brain. Now this is an idiom, so you're thinking, okay, how does this work? Like, what does that mean? A friend of mine had food on the brain. Food on the brain. Now, if you don't know this idiom, it will obviously sound quite strange and interesting to you. But before we get into that, let's just look at the phrase or the whole sentence itself. So a friend of mine had food on the brain. And you can think about this. How do I take this and be able to search it on Google or whatever search engine you use? So you have to first break down that sentence into a couple of pieces and think about, okay, what's the part of this sentence that I don't understand that maybe I can try to figure out or search for online? So if we think about like a friend of mine had food on the brain, like a friend of mine. So I think I already know what that means. It's just somebody I know, a friend of mine. So we can forget about that part. And to have food on the brain. Okay, so have food on the brain. Now, maybe I could search for that. So maybe we forget about the friend part and just search for having food on the brain. But we might even try to go smaller than that, where we look for on the brain or to have food on the brain. So maybe we search for that. If we can't quite find something, we keep making it shorter and shorter, trying to get to the kernel, the smallest bit of something that we don't understand. And then we can work out from there. So if I look for on the brain, what I find is that it's actually an idiom for something that I'm thinking about a lot. So when you have something on the brain, it just means, okay, like something is on my mind. It's really the same thing, but people will use, I have something on my mind, or I have something on my brain. So even though mind would actually be a better idea or a better way to express it, native speakers will use both. So if there's a girl I've been thinking about for a long time, I've got this girl on my brain, or I've got this girl on my mind. Or if it's a young kid who's at school and he's always thinking about playing his instrument or playing some video games, he's got his instrument on the brain or on his mind all the time. Now, when you're getting something like this, you can, again, begin with the whole thing and start making it smaller and smaller until you get to a part of the phrase that makes sense. But then it's much easier if you start trying to connect that thing to something you already know or to create some kind of story. So if you think about maybe even your physical head, once you understand what on the brain means, then try to create that story. So either the origin story that you know because you researched that, or because you just created that origin story in your own mind. And again, the story is something that you should be connecting in English, either a visual thing, I've got water on the brain. So literally it's like on my brain. As an example, maybe I'm talking with you and I say, yeah, I was like with this girl and, we were talking and like I really like her, but maybe she's not really interested in me so much. And I'm talking and I'm like, wow, I've really got this girl on the brain. Now you can think about that, like what is the larger context of that? What's the main idea? Not really the words I'm saying, but what is the conversation about? So I'm talking about, okay, I'm like thinking about a girl, I'm talking about her, she's a focus of my attention, she's on my brain. So I'm kind of reviewing that and saying, I've really got this girl on my brain. I can't get her out of my head. So just an example, obviously you can use it for like sports or anything or business, whatever it is you're focusing on or that you can't stop thinking about when you've got something on the brain. Now to make sure this is clear, let's try another one. So suppose you hear I'm talking with a friend of mine, I was going to the wedding and I'm like describing the wedding story to him. So, hey man, I went to this wedding and it seemed like a really great occasion. Lots of people were having fun. But right before the ceremony was about to begin, the bride got cold feet and left. So the bride got cold feet about the wedding and left. So I'm saying this whole phrase, the bride got cold feet about the wedding. So the bride got cold feet about the wedding. Now, maybe if I search that whole thing, I might find something because this is a pretty common usage. But again, if I understand most of the parts of this and I understand the whole context, okay, maybe like we're talking about a wedding, and like, so I'm describing things as happening in like a good way so that like everybody was happy, things were going very well, but then the bride got cold feet about the wedding. So I'm describing something happy and then using but then as, okay, now we're going to introduce something that's contrasting to that. So maybe the opposite situation. So something that's kind of sad. So you're getting clues about what something might mean. So you really have to listen for these in the conversation. So we got the bride and groom. So we already know about that, and about the wedding. We already know like a marriage or a wedding. We already know what that is. So we can forget about those other things and just focus on searching the thing that we don't understand, which is to get cold feet. So to get cold feet means that you're having maybe second thoughts about something, or you're nervous about something, typically right before you have to do it. So if I'm going to get in an airplane and jump out of that plane to go skydiving, maybe I'm really prepared, I'm excited, I get on the plane, and then when I look out, I get really scared about that. And then maybe I decide not to. So I could describe that as I got cold feet about jumping out of the airplane. So the bride got cold feet about the wedding. I got cold feet about the jumping out of the airplane, that kind of thing. And speaking of being up in an airplane, I'll give you one more example just to make sure this is really clear to you. So this example, maybe I'm talking with someone and I'm like, yeah, we're trying to decide what we want to do with the company. I said I wanted to do this, and a friend of mine said, maybe we should do this other thing. We're kind of up in the air about it, and we don't really know what to do. Now, again, listen carefully. What's happening in this conversation? So we're describing something like I'm saying, I'm setting the stage. I'm explaining what's happening in our situation. So in this case, we've got many different options, or at least two different options we can use. And I could say something or do something, and maybe somebody else says something else. So this is describing indecision. So we don't know what to do. We're trying to figure out the best way to solve something or what choice we should make. So I'm describing that. And then again, I come back at the end, and this is what native speakers will often do. They'll explain something in regular everyday English that most people understand, but then they'll use an idiom after that to go back and kind of recap, to re-explain the whole thing, but in a conversational way. So I'm describing indecision, and then I use an idiom that explains indecision. So to be up in the air about something just means you don't know what to do. Imagine I jump up like I'm holding a basketball, and in the rules of basketball, you can't hold the ball, jump up, and then come back down again. So if I hold the ball and I jump up, I have to figure out what to do. I'm up in the air. I can't come back down. I have to throw the ball to somebody else, or it would be an illegal play. So just thinking about that same idea, I've understood the whole conversation, or at least this part of the conversation. And then when we say like, we're up in the air about what to do. So like what to do, okay, that makes sense. So we know that, like about what to do. Yeah, we're focusing on that. But the part I don't understand is up in the air. But if I still don't understand what that is, I've removed the things from that sentence that I don't quite understand, and then I can use that to search for specifically. So I go to Google and type up in the air, and then typically when you're searching for something like this, add the word idiom as well. So if you're searching for it, or English phrase, it's much faster. That's a quick tip for you to be able to find things much more easily. Typically when you're speaking with natives or you're just listening with them, you can understand a lot more than you think you can if you're just a bit more strategic about how you think. So you have to not pay attention to like the individual words, but first try to understand what's really happening in the situation. Is somebody sad? Is somebody happy? Are they describing an adventurous situation or something else? And then from that, are they explaining something or using simple things like and, so, or but that is going to indicate a change in that or a continuation of whatever it is they're talking about. And then when you get to the part that you don't understand, eliminate the pieces of that sentence that you do understand, and then you're left with just that one thing that you can search, and remember to put idiom next to that. Now, even if it's not an idiom, it doesn't matter, but typically the word idiom also helps you find things much more clearly or much more quickly and easily when you're using a search engine for them. Well, that's it for this video. If you have enjoyed enjoyed it, do click that like button, become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. Finally, and most importantly, if you have trouble understanding native speakers, or if you have trouble expressing yourself fluently and confidently, take our free fluency quiz. It will tell you exactly what you need to do for your specific situation. The biggest problem that you have with your fluency, whatever that may be, it could be that you have trouble understanding people, or that you can't use grammar automatically without thinking, or maybe you have trouble with your pronunciation. All of these things we can help you solve absolutely free, and we'll give you specific advice for those by taking this free quick fluency quiz. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.